Whether you're thinking about selling your business or buying a business, you might be thinking about working with a business broker. And you're probably thinking, what should I actually look for in a business broker? And today, we're going to answer that question to the best of our abilities because we've worked with brokers on the sell side and on the buy side, whether we're trying to sell a business and we're looking for someone to represent from that side, or whether we're looking to buy a business. More often, we've worked with brokers on that side. We're actually in the middle of working with one right now that's been pretty great to work with. But there are things to look for and things to be aware of. So we're going to break down some of the things that you need to, I guess, some green flags to look for and some red flags to look for from both sides so that you can kind of understand what's going on in this process.
It's very interesting because there's so many brokers to choose from, and everybody seems to be pretty good, especially just on the surface. I think it's, sort of like a realtor where often you don't understand whether or not it's a right fit until you get into it. So it's very important to understand that a broker is essentially your lifeline to, buyers. And you want to have somebody who's going to represent your business well and also provide a very complete package for you. So I think the first sign of a good broker for a seller is one that is going to hold your feet to the fire. They're not going to let you submit a bunch of sloppy documents, and they're not going to just take like a bunch of, W-2s or whatever forms and say, when you say, here's my stuff for a sim, can you just make it? They're going to make you clean up your act because they understand how the market is, and they're going to make you look nice if your house is a little cluttered.
Yeah, they're going to make you look nice, and ultimately that's your first impression when you're out on the market. Like everyone knows that the market is a game of having multiple buyers. So if you're someone who's trying to sell your business, ideally you want as many buyers as possible coming to the table. And you're only going to get buyers interested in the first place if you've got a very polished professional look that actually that gives value to your business. So if they don't know how to do that, if they don't know how to put together professional marketing materials and marketing collateral, that's a big problem. That's a red flag. Now, on the other hand, if you are maybe shopping around trying to find the right business broker, you might want to ask them for some examples of how they create these. Maybe ask for past marketing materials from another business that they worked with or something like that. Maybe try to compare a little bit of it. They might not always be able to show that, but you might be able to sign an NDA and have them show it to you or something, or they might have templates that they can show you. That is a good way to kind of compare and hold them side to side and see who's going to create something that presents my business in a better light. And ultimately, you're looking for someone who just knows how to make materials that make it stand out and make it seem like something that you buy it and it immediately starts printing money. That's the kind of feeling that you want a potential buyer to have when they see a listing for your business, when they see a text or an email that maybe they're on the list for a broker that they get about your business. That's what kind of feeling you want them to get. And so the way they create those materials should create that feeling.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the person that you're working with may seem almost kind of militant in what they want you to do or how they want you to be, and they may actually request that you go get you pay somebody to get things turned around to look a certain way. But realistically, it would be no different than, say, getting some fresh paint on your walls for a staging. But rather than a staging, this is more of a presentation, as we've said. So when I look for a broker, I mean, if you have nobody has perfectly clean records. There's always going to be something. So a broker that says, "Oh no, you're good. I just need this stuff, and I'm all good to go." If they have no critiques for you, I would maybe say perhaps talk to some others, because there's always something that you can improve on to really give buyers the whole picture and to possibly attract buyers that'll pay as much, if not more, than what you're wanting, because you might fit a very particular box that they're looking for.
And I like where you're going with that, in the sense that it should feel a little bit grueling and a little bit hard just getting everything together. Now, at the same time, they should make it easy. They should have good processes and systems to collect all this information from you. But it shouldn't feel like, oh, just send over some financials and we'll call it a day. It should feel like a little bit of a research process that you have to do on your own business. And you should feel like you're being challenged in what kind of detail you need to be able to provide about your business, because providing that level of detail is what's going to attract the more serious buyers. They want to know, what does your customer concentration look like? What kind of like industries are you mostly working with businesses in, or what kind of customers are you working with? These are like the kind of details that serious professional buyers are going to require anyway. So when a broker knows to ask for those things from you, that signals that they've worked with those types of buyers before, and that's who they're going to bring to the table. So it shouldn't feel like just an easy thing where they just say, hey, all I need is a couple documents, give me a tax return, P&L for the last couple of years, and I got you. Like, I'll spin something up real quick. That is a big red flag. Now, I want to talk about the buyer side a little bit as well, though, because you don't really get to pick who your broker is on the buy side. Typically, you just end up with whatever broker you're working with. When you find a business that you want to buy, sometimes people do get representation on the buyer side. If they're like a large private equity firm or something like that, they might have brokers out there looking for them. But most of the time, you don't get to choose the broker you work with, but you can still look for red or green flags. And I think the first thing that stands out is some of the red flags to look for.
So I think in my mind, the first red flag is somebody who just wants all your information, and they say, don't worry, I'll get you some buyers. Like, I think the quicker the pipeline, the less I want to be involved. So to that degree, I would say a lot of times some of the larger institutions, larger brokerages usually have this, and normally it's not their fault. It's usually a younger broker who's starting out, who they're just giving out, hey, like, these are the cases, these are the brand new ones, see what you can do, see if you can turn them. And it's not their fault, but to a degree, the larger the firm is, the more likely that these are a bunch of new guys just getting into the industry. They are commission only. And to a degree, they're just trying to get a sale. So maybe they don't know the questions to ask, or maybe it's so big, they have 50 businesses that a buyer may not get the best interaction, because they're trying to think that they're taking every call, every interview, sending out a sim every other minute. And when you get on a call with them, the buyer's experience with them might be so bad that even a good business can look bad if the broker isn't terribly educated on who he's representing and what he's representing.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, at least in my experience as a potential buyer and a buyer working on something right now, I think the bad brokers try to go an inch deep and a mile wide and try to talk to as many potential buyers for each business that they're working on, and really aren't able to go deep with any of them. Now, the good ones I've noticed do the opposite. They give you a lot of resistance getting in the first place. They're just not going to really give you much and open up in the first place if you don't pass certain checks. You've got to be able to show that you've got some kind of financial backing, or you're backed by the SBA, or you've got some SBA trust and a banker that you're already working with. And you've got to be able to show a real professionalism and a background that makes it seem legitimate, like you're actually going to be able to be a serious buyer and get qualified or have the funds to purchase it. And you're going to need to sign a lot of things to get in the first place. And they're just not going to give you information if you can't get past that. Now, when you do get past that, the good ones I've noticed is if you do get past all the checks, then they'll actually really take the time and kind of hold your hand through the process and make sure that you understand it. And they're not going to just try to fire off quick answers. And they're really going to take the time to make sure that you know what you're buying and that your concerns are addressed, but that they're also taking care of the seller. So I think if you experience someone who's just like, they're just kind of running and gunning, and they're like, they sound like a little bit of a salesperson the whole time, and they're not an educator. They're more just trying to say, oh yeah, everything's good, it's an amazing business, come buy it. And they're really not taking the time to qualify you as a buyer. That to me is a huge red flag.
It's difficult to pinpoint exactly where things are going off the rails at times, because when you're presenting to this person, especially if this is, if the first time you're really going through this, you're going to have a lot of questions and you're going to get a lot of answers. And oftentimes it may be the quickest or easiest answer. So I would suggest to the business buyer looking at, red flags or things that may be made apparent that aren't good. Look at the overall experience that others have had. Usually if somebody has listed their businesses sold, you can usually figure out, they might not list the business, but you can ask about previous sellers, how they've experienced it, and you can even ask, hey, do you have any testimonials? I think the smaller shops will have more access to that, and not everyone will have testimonials, but they can talk about in length the process they went to. I mean, we've had a number of people on our show who run small, very successful shops for certain niches, and that alone has given them a whole lot of content and a whole lot of just standing within their own communities. That, depending on what region of the country you're in, where they're located, if you're in that industry, you might have just heard their name a few times because they are so prominent in what they do. So I think when you're, coming down to it, just because a big shop is going to give you the time of day and a couple answers may not be the best one. You might want to go to that smaller shop and take a little bit more time and see how many answers and how many kind of conversations you can have before you do it. Because a good broker knows that even just getting somebody in the door takes time. They have to earn your trust as much as you have to earn theirs, that you have an actual good business worth representing.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would say the good ones, they know that they need to earn your trust and build trust with you in regards to the business, but they're also not going to waste their time. So they do a really good job kind of like walking the line of building that trust and providing you all the information you need, guiding you through the process while not wasting any time. They're matter of fact, direct, to the point. They're not going to, it's not going to be a lot of puffery or posturing with them. They're just going to tell you, hey, here's what they need. This will work. This won't work. Know what you're trying to do is not going to work. Here's where you are in the process. Here's how you stack up to the competition. They're going to just be more direct with you in that way. And I think that's kind of what you want to look for on the buy side.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, the conversation of kind of the pros and cons of utilizing a broker tend to be pretty vast. And while we've talked a lot about on this channel, going independent, finding business buyer to business seller, direct one-to-one, many times the broker is the easiest way to go, especially if you find somebody who's in a niche that, you operate in and makes sense. The amount of time, energy, and just pure stress that you're going to be under when you're doing a sale is very understated. It sounds like it's going to be hard work, but it's 2 to 3 times what you're expecting. So a good broker, just like a good realtor, is worth their weight in gold, because while you could, just like a house, you could sell it yourself, sure, oftentimes you might leave a lot on the table and not know which questions to ask, and there's not a calculable amount of chat GPTing, Clauding, grokking that you could do that would give you every single answer for every situation. And you could end up in a place where you've wasted months with somebody who just simply is not even they're just gonna ghost you after 3 to 4 months. So it is vitally important that when you're vetting a broker, that you have all these factors to consider when you're deciding who is going to list your business.
That's right. And whether you're on the sell side or the buy side, remember to look out for green flags and red flags. On the sell side, if you're selling your business, look for someone who knows how to present it right. Look for someone who's going to be direct with you and really make sure to get you to do the things that you need to present it and package it the right way. And look for someone who knows how to bring real, legitimate, professional buyers to the table. If you're a buyer and you're working with a broker and you're wondering, can I trust this person? Can I trust that the information that they're conveying is accurate? And can I trust that they're going to be able to guide me all the way to successfully completing an acquisition? Then look for them to not try to go an inch deep and a mile wide with a lot of people. Look for them to cut to the chase quick and really try to hone in on who the legitimate front runners are as far as the buyers for this business quickly, and look for them to give direct answers but guide you through the process. That's the kind of green flags you want to look for. And certainly do not look for someone who I would stray away if someone's just kind of telling you everything you want to hear about the business. It should feel like a little bit of a give and a pull, and a little bit of a give and a take rather. So look for these things if you're trying to sell or buy a business in 2026 or future years, and you're looking for a broker to work with, or you're working with a broker already. Use this to assess who you're working with, and hopefully this can help you have a better outcome in your sale or your acquisition. And until next time, we'll see you next Tuesday right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do this every week, and we just love to talk about this stuff. So hit us up on social media, find Ryan or I on LinkedIn, and just message us what you want us to talk about on the show, whether it's reviewing a deal, whether it's talking about some particular aspect of buying or selling businesses. That's the kind of stuff that we want to have conversations about and share with you. So we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.